2009, the year that Barack Obama was sworn in as the 44th President of the United States. Bitcoin had just started and Usain Bolt ran the 100 meter in a world record time of 9.58 seconds. The year also featured a huge moment in football, with Cristiano Ronaldo becoming the most expensive player with an £80 million move to Real Madrid. The football world looked a whole lot different 15 years ago. Manchester United were good, Pep Guardiola was winning trophies with Barcelona, and we still got to witness the likes of Xavi, Kaká and Steven Gerrard in action. Who would have thought that Leicester City, who were promoted to the Championship from League One in 2009, would win the Premier League title 6 years later, or that Tottenham midfielder Luka Modric would go on to win the Ballon d'Or. Football is completely unpredictable, as we've seen from the previous however many months of videos I've been doing. But today we're ditching the new school predictions from the internet for a more traditional media source, which, just like the internet predictions, give a go at what the future of football would look like today 15 years later. I've spent the last 9 months going back in time, unearthing football predictions from the deepest, darkest pits of the internet, and the results were shocking. Welcome back to the Football Time Machine. This is a very special episode from 2009, and we've swapped the internet for a more traditional media source, with a World Football Magazine special, The Future of Football. That's right up our alley. What's different about the predictions we see in this episode is that the ones on the internet have no context, they're just straight up predictions, whereas in here, we can turn to any page and find out what is going on in the world of football in 2009. It is a proper time capsule.
And 2 players.
Starting with predictions that definitely came true. Footballers would become fitter, faster and stronger players. Back in the day, experts predicted that sports science and wearable tech would redefine training and performance, creating a new breed of athlete. And today, with GPS trackers, personalised nutrition and real-time performance monitoring on the pitch, the modern footballer is faster and fitter than ever. While muscle simulation and body engineering tech, like they said, isn't widespread, recovery and injury prevention are far more advanced, allowing for players to stay on the pitch longer. And that is pretty much what they said in the magazine. Next up, you have robot refereeing. It was predicted that robots would take over officiating duties, and whilst this hasn't exactly happened, technology does play a big part, whether you like it or not, in today's game. With systems like VAR and goal line technology, referees now have assistants to make more accurate calls. It's not full-on robotic officiating, but technology has reshaped the way the game is played, and this is inching us closer to error-free officiating, just not the way they originally pictured it. The idea of embedding chips in balls and players sounded really futuristic 15 years ago, but today it's the most common of the lot. Sensor-equipped balls in tournaments to track metrics, speed and rotation, especially for major decisions like offsides are the norm. From helping with player analytics to improving officiating, the tech enhances how we understand the game, and it's pretty close to what they envisioned. Though we're still waiting for even more advanced applications in the game, that's just bound to come with time. Some of the stuff in here is incredible. Just a complete throwback. Team of the month. We've got Pepe Reina in goal. We've got a 3 at the back with Puyol, Chiellini and Macon. Bloody incredible. What a player he was in like FIFA 07. No, we've got a midfield 4 of Gerrard, Xavi, Rooney and Henry. And then we've got an up front of Messi, Ibrahimovic and Amuri. Let's talk about the predictions that haven't come true yet. One big one was mega stadiums that could host up to 250,000 supporters and adapt to host multiple events at once. Whilst we have stadiums with retractable pitches and adaptable seating, we're not quite seeing 250,000 capacity mega arenas just yet. Instead, clubs are focusing on enhancing the fan experience with advanced audio visuals and connectivity within the stadium. Then we have predictions that are still unfolding and we're not sure where they're going. Just like the immersive fan experience. Back in the 2000s, some believed that VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality would bring stadium experiences to people's homes in a fully immersive way. Today, VR and AR are at the early stages of making their way into the fan experience. Some platforms are testing VR live streaming, allowing fans to feel like they're right at the pitch, as we've seen in that pub in America, with that massive screen as well, which isn't quite VR, but it's as if you're at the game because of how high quality the experience is. And while tech is evolving, it's not widespread yet because it's still at its early stages and is so expensive. Another slow burning prediction was the one of the Global League, where top teams from across each continent would regularly compete against each other. The rise of international club tournaments like the expanded Club World Cup, which is coming in 2025, and pre-season international tournaments shows that we are moving in that direction, whether you like it or not. And though a fully fledged global league hasn't quite happened yet, it feels like whatever makes the most money, the game will head in that direction. Those are some general predictions about the game that the magazine talked about, but what about some tactical decisions? Well, they believed, contrary to what the game is like, there would be a shift towards more defensive and rougher football. Yeah, sounds absolutely bizarre, because it's the complete opposite of what today is. They believe that the game would become extremely defense orientated. Imagine a team lining up with 8 defenders, 2 midfielders, and just 1 up top. Yeah, I know you might say Arsenal 2024, it kind of rings a bell, but no, generally this isn't the case. At the time, they said that with the stats showing that in recent World Cups there had been fewer goals, coaches deploying that do or die mentality, prioritizing win at all cost vibes, they thought pretty football would go down the pan, and to an extent it has. Pretty football has died. We have been talking about the death of football and the death of Joga Bonita, but that's not to say that attacking football has completely died. Yes, when we see a giant come against a smaller club, they play that low block and they're playing to get something out of the game. That is that do or die mentality. But generally across the board, we're not seeing the death of attacking football. They thought it wasn't just going to be the formations. They thought referees would be more scarce with their yellow and red cards, which is definitely not the case. The idea of that shift towards defensive strategies brought up the idea of tension in football, which we are seeing today. Fans and broadcasters want high-scoring, action-packed games, whilst coaches want tight, low-scoring, tactically sound matches. In some ways, a tug of war between entertainment and strategy. High-scoring games might be thrilling, but they're not ideal for who wants to win the prize in the long run. They want risk-free games. And this isn't new. Defensive tactics root back to 1940s Italy, where less wealthy clubs had to counter powerhouses like Inter Milan and Juventus. The Italian influence shaped that mindset of prioritizing smart defensive play over flashy moves. Fast forward, and even now, big clubs with the most money usually play against a low block and defensive teams which are trying to win ugly. That one centre forward formation that teams started to employ around this time wasn't exactly fan friendly, but it won games. Another trend they began to see around this time was the decline in goals scored from set pieces. There's an old German saying, 3 corners equals 1 goal, but in a recent World Cup, it took a whopping 56 corners to score 1 goal. Set pieces, once a staple, are becoming less common and defences learn to counter them. That was a quote from the time in 2009. And I must say, in the last 15 years, I can't remember many goals going in from set pieces. Maybe it's the team I support, so I might not see it. But I'll note that even today, where Arsenal are scoring quite a lot of goals from set pieces this season, it's been made a thing in the media, and their set piece coach is being hailed as a genius. This at one point back in the day was the norm, but today it's so scarce that Arsenal's set piece coach is being put on a pedestal. I find it interesting that all those predictions that the magazine made 15 years ago were all nipped in the bud very early, with referees taking less shit, players getting better at attacking, defenders getting better at defending. And at times, yes, we do see teams like Arsenal playing like 9 defensive players on the pitch, but that's only because of, I don't know, injury crises, or because tactics have just developed so much in the last 15 years. Looks like Gerrard's been getting himself in a bit of trouble recently. This would appear to be the moral of the squad. Early mornings in Southport Disco Cum restaurant, which ended with Steven Gerrard being held for 20 hours in police custody. Naughty, naughty boy. David going over to Serie A in his off-season in the MLS. A theme we've seen a lot of at Arsenal in the past 20 years. Crisis. What crisis? One thing I did want to cover is look at this. I said on my story the other day, I think I had these Mercurials in light blue, and one of my earliest memories of having them is a friend of mine, Tom. We weren't friends at that time, but he would bug me by saying same trainers, I don't know, like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kind of joke. And yeah, from that day we've been best buds because of those Mercurials. But look at those, man. The OG clearback F50s. Oh, the last generation of the tongue preds. Pretty beautiful to see. I wonder if we can order some. To be fair, it is Pro Direct and, you know, they're still going. Finally, let's take a look at some of these players that they predicted to be global superstars. The first one was John Bostock, who was a future star at 15, but ended up moving to Tottenham where his playing time was limited. He ended up being a journeyman and really struggled to establish himself at the top level. Inler was another top talent at a young age and was projected to have a really crazy career, and to be fair, he lived up to it. At the time, he was making waves as a young tough midfielder in the Serie A, and despite a solid but unremarkable career, he was part of that Leicester side to lift the title in 2015. Michael Mancian was a promising English centre-back who got his England call-up at just 19. He actually went to my secondary school, and I can remember the hype around him around that time, but he just couldn't break through at Chelsea because of how stacked that team was around that time. Bounced around from England to Germany at Hamburg for a few years, which reflects the challenges of breaking into the top level in the Premier League. Landon Donovan was another one who was tipped around the time. His European career was quite limited, but he was an American hero, having a huge impact on sport in the US. He didn't quite make that European impact that he would have hoped to, but he did prove that American players could leave a lasting mark on the sport. Bojan, the kid who looked like he was going to be the next Lionel Messi. Such a promising La Masia star, and everyone had him tipped as the next big thing. Career, if you flipped it on his head, looked like one of an incredible career path going from Stoke to Barcelona. Unfortunately, it kind of dwindled out after all those Messi comparisons. He never quite lived up to his hype. And finally, Sergio Aguero, predicted to be the next Maradona, and he absolutely delivered. A Premier League legend, gave us countless iconic moments, and is Manchester City's all-time top goal scorer. His career proves that some players really do live up to the hype. So what's next for the future of football? Well, it's clear that football is at a crossroads at the moment, 15 years after these predictions. With high-scoring games, such a trend at the moment, but also really defensive tactics on the other, it's interesting to see what direction football will really take. Thanks for joining me on this very special, unique version of the Football Time Machine. We haven't really gone back into, old school media yet, and I think it's something I'm gonna do more. If you enjoy content like this, make sure you stick around, subscribe, like, and leave a comment what you want me to do next. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed. Peace!